So today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Thief VR, Legacy of the Shadows, which is coming to Quest, PSVR2 and PCVR, but I only played the Quest 3 version and the PSVR2 version. And the reason this video is in this format, I don't actually know when I'm allowed to talk about my thoughts from the session that I played. But I wanted to basically get my thoughts down now because it was only yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. The game's being made by Maze Theory, being published by Vertigo, and Thief VR generally looks like it's set in like an old London town, cobbled streets, pretty much in line with all the other Thief games, I would say. When it comes to your weapon loadout or your character even, Magpie, which is your name, can't actually physically really attack anyone. She's not got any physical prowess about her, so you have to use a thing called a blackjack, which is a club, which I think is quite a significant weapon in the Thief games, because I think your character Magpie is more about being stealthy versus actually being able to physically attack people. You can physically attack people though. With the blackjack you can knock guards out, and you've also got a bow. Now the bow has 3 different arrow types. There was a hook shot, there was water, ice and fire, and these basically play a significant part in how you traverse the game and deal with the guards. So for example, this game is all about light and shadows. On your right hand you have a diamond, and that lets you know if you're basically visible to guards. There's really no HUD elements in this, and I actually liked that. Sound plays a massive part as well, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, so basically you'll be trying to stick to the shadows as much as possible. The guards, AI wise, were pretty good actually. They tended to find me pretty easily, and if I tried to elude them by doing like an exploit of going through a vent on one side of a room, they would literally see that I've gone through the vent and try and get round to the other side as quick as possible. And they didn't really give up, and I liked that. They really did chase me for quite some time, because I'm terrible at stealth games, but I eventually got pretty good at this one eventually. When it comes to getting around the levels themselves, it was all about climbing through windows, going through vents, going through sewers. They've got like a mechanic where if you hold onto the windows themselves with both your hands and press forward on the joystick, you basically like vault through anything, and I think that's to make it very quick. If you're getting chased, you can literally just grab the window and just press forward and you're instantly through it, instead of versus games where you kind of grab and have to force your way through. I kind of liked that mechanic actually. One thing I didn't like was the crouch. When you crouched, it was like a snap crouch. You crouched and it was instantly down or instantly up. I gave that as some feedback. I wanted like a bit of a smoother transition. There is no body in the game, you only have hands. When it comes to combat, the blackjack, which I said is like the club, you can use that to block incoming attacks from guards and knock them out. You hit them once and they kind of go down on all fours, and if you hit them again they go to sleep, and then you can hide the bodies. And the reason you need to hide the bodies is because then other guards will come across and revive them if you don't. And when I mentioned the audio and the lack of HUD elements, I actually thought that was quite immersive. The only way you know if you're making a lot of sound is by basically listening to your own footsteps. If you run, you make a lot of noise. If you walk, sort of medium, I guess. There's nothing to actually visually say in the headset whether you're making noise or whether you're not, and I kind of liked that, and that led me to definitely being a lot more stealthy, because it means you haven't got a system to exploit, so that caused me personally to play the game probably a lot more in line as what they wanted. For my playtest, I played on the Quest 3 and the PSVR2. On the Quest 3, I did a tutorial area, and that basically got me to use all the things I've just been talking about and get used to it. I will talk about visuals in a minute, and visual comparisons, should I say, between both platforms. But the second chapter I played on PSVR2 was far more in line, I think, with what the game is going to be about. It's about collecting lots of jewelry to make money. What that money goes towards, I don't know. I don't know whether you spend stuff to upgrade stuff or you literally just collect it. I'm not sure at the moment. You had a satchel, very similar to like Walking Dead, for example, where you've got your key items and obviously critical things to your missions. And then there was 3 at the bottom, and these 3 slots can be for like food to keep your health up. I saw bread and apples. They were the only 2 things I've come across so far. And there was like armor and bottles and vases, and basically you can pick things up and throw them to be a distraction to the guards. So at one point in the game I needed to get through to a certain door, and this guard, even though a lot of them go on patrol, this particular guard guard didn't want to move. So I basically used a water arrow to put out a fire, so then I had shadows to be able to get by, and then pickpocket him for a key. The pickpocketing was pretty cool. Obviously not every guard has something you should pickpocket, but you can't take the weapons off them. You can't punch them, as I said. Could knock him out, and I did knock him out with the blackjack. And when it comes to the fires themselves, they can be relit again by a guard who's passing by and sees that a fire is out. And one of the stories the developers shared with me, which is pretty cool, from the playtesting at the event, was a player climbed up into a fireplace to basically go up like a chimney or something to access another area, or simply hide. While he was up in the chimney, the guard came along and relit the fire, preventing him from basically escaping again. And I thought that was pretty cool. I liked that interaction. Now, one thing I will say before I get into the graphics, I found Thief very familiar to play, and by that I mean nothing really surprised me in this game, and whether that's a negative or a positive I'm not too sure until I play more of it, but nothing really jumped out at me as surprising about this being in VR. I think if you imagine a Thief game in VR, you pretty much know already what to expect when you play it. Oh yeah, before I move on to graphics, actually, there was something in the PSVR2 version. When I got to the second level, I then received like an augment in my left eye, and it gives you like a Thief vision, and you enable this, I think, by pulling the trigger on the left or right side of my head. I can't quite remember, but it's on a cooldown timer, so you can't use it all the time. It doesn't see through walls, it doesn't let you see guards where they're placed and stuff, which I liked, and I liked it being on a cooldown timer as well, so it stops you spamming it. But for example, there was a searchlight that was causing me all sorts of problems, so I basically used the Thief vision to find where the generator was, and also in Thief vision I could see where the electricity cables were going, and there was 2 generators that I needed to shut down the searchlight. So that's what I end up using it for. If you look at a guard in Thief vision, I'm not sure what it's going to be called, Magpie vision maybe, they glow in red, but as I said, you can't really use them to work out where they're positioned in the level if they're not actually in your line of sight. So now let's talk about graphics. I think this game is extremely similar on both platforms, and I'll get to details in a minute because I've got some about what is going on PSVR2 versus Quest. But unlike, for example, Metro on Quest and PSVR2, even though both look very good, I think, and play very well, clearly PSVR2 is the platform that has the smoother frame rate, and I would say it does look better. The PSVR2 version is more in line with the PC version, as that didn't seem the case here. I would say the PSVR2 version is very in line with the Quest version, and it looks good, like it does. It looks really good on Quest, but I was kind of surprised about that. I was kind of expecting a big jump in graphical fidelity between the two versions, and that just isn't the case. But on PSVR2, you do have a slight increase in resolution. I would argue at the moment, and this is still an early build, you know, this isn't the final game, this isn't how it's going to be presented on the day for reviews and stuff. Yeah, I didn't really see the increase in resolution much. They did say there's dynamic shadows. I didn't really notice them either, but apparently they're going to be there in the PSVR2 version. But yeah, I was kind of shocked how similar it was, and a little bit disappointed if I'm honest. I kind of expected the PSVR2 version to be like the top tier PC version. So I'm not sure even if the Steam version is going to be that much different to Quest, but that's not to say the Quest version is bad at all. I thought it looked really good, but on the PSVR2 version I was hoping for those deeper blacks, and the game at the moment in this build looked pretty washed out. So when you're talking about light and dark is a big part of this game, I mean the diamond played a really big part of me knowing that I was actually in darkness, because it was kind of quite bright in comparison to what I would call a dark area. So just to summarise my quick hands-on impressions, overall I am looking forward to checking it out. I'm looking forward to reviewing it, especially on all platforms, to figure out like what is the best platform of all three. I think the main takeaway from me was this is a proper stealth game. I think anyone who's going in there expecting to be able to fight guards, you can set them alight with like fire arrows, but they were very limited. And that makes sense, obviously, because otherwise you just go around setting everyone alight. Or freezing them. I don't know if you can freeze them with the ice arrows. Overall, I think if you love stealth games, and I think if you love the Thief series, and set expectations knowing that your character in this game isn't going to be running around being able to stab people or have sword fights, I think you will enjoy it. I did enjoy my time with it. I just need to play a lot more to figure out whether the game in its entirety will be something that will keep me locked in, because as I said, it felt very familiar. You know, it didn't feel like, sometimes I play a game and there's something new, or there's something like you remember a lot, you know, you're like, oh, this is doing something different. It didn't really feel like that. There was a couple of things I said, like the vaulting through the windows was quite nice because it was nice and quick, but yeah, it felt like I'd played a game like this before. I'm not here to hype games. Obviously, I'm here to give you my honest feedback on them, and I'm looking forward to playing more, but I also need to play more to know where my hype level is. Thank you ever so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.